Thank you for being here and welcome to all of you. Let me first begin by bringing here one person without whose very strong financial and other support we could have never pulled it together. Dr. Crowe is the director of the Center for, Devid Center. He will say a few words to welcome you all on behalf of the center, and then I'll take over for a few minutes. Come on.
Perfect timing. Musical introduction. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to offer you a heartfelt welcome to this gathering, and immediately what I have to do is recognize Professor Sharma's hard work and initiative, he's really the person who made it possible for this to take place. So I thank you for taking the initiative and bringing people together. It's a pleasure to be able to do this. I won't take up too much of your time, but what I will say is, first of all, welcome to all of you, but also to our speakers who have come together and generously offered to spend some time with us and share their expertise. Perhaps I'll leave more specific introductions to Professor Sharma. The Devid Center works hard to facilitate exchanges between Asianists at Simon Fraser University, but also beyond. The Devid Center is more or less a catalyst for scholars to bring people together across disciplines. To discuss issues that Ching. To Asia. To political social configuration, but also to the communication between North America and Asia. So I would just say, if any of the Center might be able to contribute to, if you think there are projects discussing possibilities. A new website which gives you an overview of who we are. And finally, I would like also to draw from this part of to visit the conference, which is coming up in May. We have the conference will be structured around 4 panels. I don't know how many of you know, but there's been an ongoing plan in Vancouver to utilize our Chinatown, which is really quite a treasure, an interest in Chinese-Canadian history. Coincides with, and will draw on expertise that's it. We have 4 panels planned. The first one of Chinatown. We'll be looking at revisioning of Chinatown with people from and architects who've been involved in that plan. And media panel, which Professor Asia Canada program. And also, I might say, very lucky to have her. She's a recent arrival, so she's going to be leading that panel. And diaspora, the migration. So, anyway, welcome to you all. If you, without any further ado, I'll turn the proceedings over. Thank you very much.
Okay, from Dr. Crowe, I'm quite good at, I've got 4 other departments of the university. They also support with China is not a field early interest, it never has been. I was still teaching a course on China, but I could not pay attention. What has been going on in China. Read any of the language. Never been to China except for many years ago, and it's still part of my conscious awareness that something has been happening there. I've been a student of Marx, evolutionary thought. Marx, in addition to Marx, was a sociologist, but Marx was also an evolutionary practitioner. And it is in that context you be aware of what happened before 1949 and in 1949. Even though languages, I've been trying as best as I can myself with the issues of internal stands, policy statements. The China scholars have been very good at translating them and getting comfortably read and understand. As I look at it, where his geographical interest has been India and South Asia, and almost about the same kind of in 1947, 1949, geographical entity, massive size of population diversity. India has more than China. And I have asking this question. All the two countries produce a Communist Party around the same time in the 20. How is it China produce Mao Zedong and India produced Mahatma Gandhi. It may find some of you, but it has been a very burning pain, confined to a essentially feudal, semi-feudal structure since India became independent because of people in that generation. China, when they aspects of Chinese Revolution which have intrigued not only people who are students of revolutionary praxis, about why is it that a country which is primarily a peasant, the working class proletariat constitutes such a small minority. What happened to all those visions Karl Marx had laid down some, although his positions were not very definite now. But even in the Islamic colonial, predominantly peasants have demonstrated that it is possible to take state power and move new society along the path of socialism. Chinese Communist Party, through its history, the world revolutionary people of the world, three magic weapons. You cannot make a revolution without a people's revolution without a united front. These were magic weapons, essential for revolution. The people who have engaged in revolutionary politics. But Chinese contribution to revolutionary politics, not confined to these three magic weapons, mobilized the entire peasantry with path. What was deformed, the agrarian of China, all the way to the 30s and 40s, and particularly through that period, what was deformed? Why is it that the peasantry became the main force? Even though leadership hit it. Chinese leadership is genius giving us a concept of is necessary for the important step toward building eventually toward socialism. New democratic revolution, a multi-class alliance, concept of protracted people's war, building the base area, moving, consolidated, and unlike the Soviet experience of 1970 interaction, here it was this country comes in, goes again, eventually strangulates. The notion was essentially a contribution, if I may say so, definitely a contribution. It was a very inspiring thing to be written over the years. And it not laid the foundation for the vast masses of Chinese people, marginal workers or proletariat, immensely. It also became immortal. Chinese Communist Party's practice of revolutionary politics in countries around the world. Definitely India, definitely a lot of other places in Asia. 60s and 70s, even people living became blue-eyed, romanticized followers and intrigued and inspired by what they were able to do for the Chinese people, and began to see to be taught even for the people, to the working class, socialist movement. Has been brought together. Very distinguished agreed to come. Dr. Zhao will not be able to come with us. She teaches the communications. She's going through a very serious family problem. She sent me a note this morning. And what I wanted to apologize to all of you. Our mother is on the verge of passing away. Her brother is climbing today. This afternoon. Shanghai. So it's a Unfortunately, I think we will have Dr. From Simon Fraser Sociology and Anthropology. That she is coming to after this coffee break to talk about her research on post-Mao China. One final comment I'd like to make, and then I invite the speakers one by one. Something very disturbing around the world recent years, definitely in 1989, and since and in the 20th century, not to mention what Paris Commune took place in the 19th century. All of that must indeed be forgotten. We cannot touch it. They made terrible mistakes. They are beginning to look at the models of socialism, and this can only be relevant for this century. as if there's nothing centuries experiences to what may in fact be happening now, even in China. So I thought that perhaps it would be good for the scholars who have devoted of their life in studying China and what has been the experience after the Mao period. The perspective of this is to keep in mind is the point of view of the people, the peasants, the workers, as to how did they fare how they have been faring now in the last 30 years. I think we have, it's my symposium, will give this lesson or this, that as we move forward to look today's capitalist malaise, exploited system, the imperialist system, we have to in my views, go back look at what happened in 20th century. What happened? National China especially can be drawn from that experience. That is which made me pull together this approach. So in the morning, on the early afternoon, China from 1949, Dr. Pao-yu Ching, Professor Emeritus was there. Ever since I've known her, 15, 17 years, I've known how deep society in Chinese people, Dr. Pao-yu, been back to China practically every year. Reset, get access to the material from China and translate that. Yes, she did that. And I have, for the work she has done, inspiration she has provided, please come and talk about the topic of socialist development based on my work.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you also for making this. Glad to be here, and thank you for coming. I think we are just a little bit ahead of to be talking about socialism again. Others will be following, but it's a big 1970s, 60s, 70s, so, but it's never too late. Professor Sharma was saying that we cannot forget the past. We have to figure what happens what mistake was made and what were the positive during the socialism in China. So I have talked and now have material to present you. So I'm going into it. China started a capitalist reform, and they called it, the Chinese government called it characteristics, or they call it so if we want to know whether socialism, I think the way to look at it is look at which class aligned with which class. So that's why I'm going to talk about 1949 to 1979, okay? What it was the class through this period of time to build socialism. The class alliance, worker peasant alliance. I'm going to start talking about asking two questions. The first question is, what is the means of alliance? The second question is necessary to have the collector in the countryside. These two are really, answer is also related. After the revolution, following what led to the revolution, and after the conflict, the first thing to do in the country, the land was concentrated in China 15 years before the revolutions. 4% of the landlords, and they owned 50, and 70% of the poor peasants owned the land. So it was necessary and to begin to actually end or to start and then end. Democratic Revolution, then finish the feudalism. And then, so each peasant have a piece of land. So, but from 1949 to 1952, where the land reform was going on, peasant per person got 0.2 hectares, had very limited amount of land, and of the total arable land in the world, 2% of the population. So you have to really make good use of land. Revolution is very poor. The land quality is very poor because of war, foreign invasion. Plus, the landlord class to make the land more fertile. To make it more fertile, it's not worth to collect the rent instead of just more land so you can rent it out instead of making the land. So, the production of cotton went up rapidly because each has their own land and they're working extremely hard. The production went up. '53, the grain production stagnated. The cotton production of cotton actually dropped. The reason for that is the poor quality of land, and also have very little productive tools. They don't have farm tools, let alone draft animals or sophisticated productive tools. So it's very difficult to make the increase in '53 and 1954 and dropped. And peasants on their own helpless against the weather. So gradually was necessary because was very poor. And then what happened was they have something happened to their personal sickness or death of the family. They cannot, they're resist, so they started borrowing money, and then the debt to sell their whatever little piece of land they have to sell. 354, the debt, the land sale, labor went up. They always sign off. So if nothing is done, then land will hands, and the whole land reform is done. So what happened is something has to be done very urgently to increase production standard of living for peasants. This is where the collectivization of agriculture came. There's a big debate between Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping, especially at that time, feels you develop the productive forces to provide the collectivization. So direct ahead of collectivization. But Mao said we productive forces unless we first. So what happened was during the collectivization from mutual aid to Bob, and then 1958 was a commune. Another thing that's very important is that land area become bigger, you build any kind of infrastructure, farmland, capital construction, to develop agriculture. What is exact construction? It is including, actually really get rid of that, join little pieces land into large. The area I visited once in 1970. actually have a lot of little creek. You know, going through the land. They actually fill the creek with dirt. And also the terracing of land. And then building irrigation system and also being the drainage coming I visited in 1979, just before a huge piece of land all joined together, irrigation, the other side with the drainage by electric power and machine, you know, to so that's the reason for collectivization of agriculture, is to improve productivity of land, to increase to beginning to modernize agriculture. But what is this Workers and Peasants Alliance came in? The question of country in order to develop and the place is agriculture or very little industry to begin. So the surplus comes from the agriculture. Several countries is that resources are to industrialize, but agriculture to replenish it. So the agriculture squeezed dry. So there was the alliance. The material base of it is that union of overemphasize on the health, little bit neglect of light industry. All he wrote the 10 great relations. Yes, heavy industry is very important. Neglect light industry because people's livelihood, clothing, houseware, and so on. Neglect the agriculture sector. Nutrition all come from agriculture sector. So this is the basis, the material basis for workers, peasants, and have some some statistic maybe you can help me into no. It's like
They have to share it, right?
no, there's 40. So, yeah.
We still there.
This paper I wrote, online publications. Okay, Worker Peasants Alliance is this. The government started to give more resources. I guess you do have to say, sorry, two, maybe two. Okay. You don't have anything on your side. Okay. If you look at table 2, it gives you some idea. You compare with 1978. You see the percent of total state investment in 1978 is 12.5%. The state investment shifted to large. The second one is huge amounts of subsidy given to inputs, fertilizer, machinery, so they can produce the input. And the state investment in that 3.0%, and then in 1970. And agriculture taxes as per revenue is dropped to 2.5. So there's less and less sector to pay for the state. And then also largely improved. The trade between the state sector and the royal sector and the collective sector is This. The state cells industrial product for data use. And then the agriculture sector also to the state sector and other like pork. The ratio of trade becomes other sector. So these are all ways so that it would modernize. So I think stop here in terms of explaining the state, the science, and why is it necessary. So the part I'm going to talk about is what is used to develop a socialist way. What is exactly the socialism? The ultimate goal of satisfying food, clean water, health care, clean environment. You develop the productive forces not people's need. And the strategy is three. I think I can like the first one is self-reliance. You probably heard of the meaning of self-reliance is the development should rely on trying resources. The internal borrowing money from other countries, okay, internally. Science is independent technology, okay, based on your, to say that if you don't borrow from abroad, truth, but rather the core technology. The third self-reliance unit is not that China itself self-reliant, their self-reliance. For example, the themselves in building the have to So our workers. In terms of internal finance and develop your own technology. Looking at the experience. So, as a third world country, you can see how important the international monopoly capital took through controlling your finance. You know, you owe the IMF, you owe, so owning money and controlling your finance, and also the technology. International corporations in the world, not technology. It controls the development. There's little chance for other third world countries their own technology. This socialist way. This is my conclusion. It's one aspect of the strategy of socialism. The second one is cooperation instead of competition. That says competition is the key. But if you look at China's experience, okay, what happened is in China, when steel industry developed, it was probably cooperate. The very advanced steel technology has the person, has the technique. They will help anywhere else build another people to help build another all the way by cooperation, and then will go to the advanced biggest ones, Anshan Corporation, Anshan Steel. Periodically to Anshan Steel to learn, ask for solution for certain problem develop. It's not so that you don't develop, just steel firm doesn't compete. Steel plant they cannot. They couldn't compete. So to cooperation is and for some socialism. So I also visited a very large in the factory in Xi'an. Where all of their even the workers came engineers. They come from Shanghai because Shanghai industry. So it was Shanghai moved Xi'an far away and established a textile. They actually has a name for this. This is called eggs everywhere. This is a help, just go. And China is very large advanced the development. It's walking on two lakes, and which is that China Mao has two lakes. One lake could be indigenous, way of doing things. One lake operation, another lake could be very